And I want to start by talking about the 4th of July. You can see I'm wearing my flag. This is my statement that the flag belongs to all of us. It does not belong to a particular point of view in this country. And you know, the United States was actually a divine idea. This idea that all men are created equal and liberty and justice for all. It was a higher ideal. But this divine idea was birthed into a consciousness that wasn't ready to hold it. You know, if you think about that day, and I thank God for John Adams, because I always say he was a pain in the ass, and if John Adams wasn't a pain in the ass and he didn't wear people down, we would not have the United States of America. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody by saying ass online. But, you know, he actually was a very forward-thinking person who was against slavery. And, you know, they all compromised to make the United States happen. But the United States was already deeply divided on this issue at the time it was birthed. So it was a divine idea birthed in the midst of a lot of largely unconscious individuals, right, who were not understanding like that's just not okay. And if you look at America, you know, there's also great things to celebrate. Look at all the people who have come here to thrive. And look at the freedom that we have that other countries don't have. But I am saddened that we haven't moved forward on some of these things. Like the Supreme Court decisions this week are just upsetting and deeply disappointing. And it's really, I'm going to call it unconsciousness. And I don't usually get political, those who know me, but it's unconsciousness. It's like hanging on to an old belief that people think keeps them safe and secure, but at the expense of someone else. And so that's unconsciousness. So what do we do with that, right? We see the change that's being called forth today, and that really requires all of us to change and figure out where are we in that. Like I had something deeply upsetting happen this week, someone I care about, and I can't tell you the whole story because someone could identify what I'm talking about. But something happened to someone I care about deeply in the workplace. And the person called me as soon as it happened, and I was just like, what was that? You know, that happened to them. And I was so upset by it that I was thinking about it the next morning in meditation, and I was crying, right? I was just crying that someone would have this experience. And, you know, I have to sit with what is mine to do with that. And I think that that's all of our roles in what's going on around us. Like if I see something, am I going to say something? I don't have to be against anyone, but I am so for everybody, you know, and I really looked at myself and said, hey, I have something I need to act on in this situation because I'm for this person and I'm, you know, I can't tell, I would love to tell the story, but I can't. But we all get to choose who we're going to be, right? We get to choose who we're going to be in the world that we see around us. And I choose to be someone who is for everyone. And you know, sometimes people we care about are unconscious also, right? And sometimes we're unconscious, right? Sometimes we're unconscious. But what I know spiritually is we get what we focus on. And my role as a practitioner of consciousness, which we all are, we're practicing our own consciousness every day, is to hold a container for what's possible. Right, to hold the higher ideal that we become a country that truly does accept everyone, that has no energy of againstness, you know, and to hold that for myself in my own interactions with people. I don't have to be a jerk, but I can say something, right? I can say something, I can be a stand, I can decide what I do and do not give my energy and my attention and my time to. Like there's certain states I'm just going to choose to not visit anymore, right? You know, so we can all vote with our feet, right? Neville Goddard says, if a person look upon any other person and estimates that person as less than himself, they're stealing from the other. They are stealing the other's birthright, that of equality. So to really embody our higher ideal of this country and the promise of freedom, you know, the flag represents the promise of freedom to a lot of people. I had forgotten about that, but I was doing a little 4th of July jam on the way in to get inspired. And one of the songs was like, the flag is a sign of freedom, right? It's been recently hijacked, but it is. It's a sign of freedom. It's a sign of freedom for all of us. So we need to practice estimating others as equal to us. That's our work, to practice freedom. Neville also said, fools exploit the world, the wise transfigure it. I really like that. Fools exploit the world, the wise transfigure it. So our life is our choice. And my invitation this morning is that you call in your personal freedom. No one can take that away from you. They can try, but nobody else's opinion of you, no one else's belief on how you should live your life, it really doesn't matter. I know it's hard to shake it off sometimes, but it doesn't matter because who you are is already inherently good. Who you are is already inherently okay. There's nothing missing in you. You have the freedom to be who you are and express what you want to express, whatever that is. So to be free to create a life that you would love, that's a super personal thing, right? And it changes depending upon the point in our life that we're in. There's no should in it. It's really what's calling to you. It's noticing what gives you life, what gives you energy is another way to say that. It's not about anybody else's idea of your life. It's that still small voice that's whispering to you. And we know that the highest performing people in history have had one thing in common, and that is their thinking. So we want to really work on our own thinking. This month we're working with the book Brave Thinking by Mary Morrissey, and those who have taken Prosperity Plus will recognize a lot of what we're going to be talking about this week. But the first thing she says is you need to notice what you're noticing. She calls it metacognition. It's being aware of and understanding how your thought process works. Because as Krista read to us, we create by design or we create by default, but we're always creating. And everything is created twice. First, it's created in thought, and then it's created in form. And if you think about it, that's true of everyone. Someone had this idea to create the iPad I'm using. It was in their mind, then it comes into form. And we also want to notice our self-defeating thoughts. And we want to replace them with empowering ones. You know, if you have a negative thought that comes up about yourself, just use the words, until now. Until now that was true. And declare it complete, whatever that thought is about yourself. Because what happens when you say, until now, it opens up your subconscious mind. And Mary Morrissey encourages us to understand the difference between common hour thinking, which is limited in what is possible, and brave thinking, which is expansive. So I want you to think for a second about your own life. Where are you experiencing restlessness? And where are you experiencing yearning in your life? You know, sometimes we make ourselves wrong for that, and we can shut it down, right? We can just shut it down, but we need to pay attention to our discontent because it's like a messenger. Hey, look here, right? Your spirit's wanting more of this, right? Look here. But what stops us? We listen to the stories in our head, whether we created them ourselves or whether someone put it there by something they said to us about ourselves that we took on as a truth about us, right? And sometimes we're also waiting for some future day or we're letting the past dictate what's possible for us. I was walking Ollie yesterday. Ollie's my dog. I talk about him a lot because I'm so in love with him. He's so cute. But I noticed that Ollie, there was someone behind us, and Ollie kept looking back. And I'm like, Ollie, we're moving forward, buddy. You know, but that's what we do in our life, right? We keep looking back, right? Is the same thing happening to me again, right? Instead of moving forward. So we want to listen to the still small voice within us. And we want to choose what gives us life, not what we should do, not what we're supposed to do. Gandhi said, the voice for truth is available to speak to every single person every single day. I love that. The voice of truth is available to speak to every single person every single day. I love that because you know what it tells me? It's in me. I don't need someone outside of me who's an expert to tell me the voice of truth for me. I know it in my heart already, and each of you already knows it in your heart. And you need to recognize yourself as worthy of your dream, right? If you judge yourself as unworthy, then whatever you're going for always feels like it's out of reach for you, right? And why does it feel out of reach? Because we have limiting beliefs. You know, Mary Morrissey tells a story in her book, which I think is kind of in poor taste, but I'm going to tell it. You'll tell me later if it's in poor taste. But it's kind of a joke. So there were these two foursomes of golfers. I know Greg's a golfer. I know there's at least one golfer in the room. And there were two foursomes. They tee off at the same time. The first foursome, you know, finishes. They're waiting in the clubhouse. They don't know what happened to their friends. And finally, about an hour later, the second foursome comes in, and there's only 3 of them. And they're like, what happened to Harry? And they said he had a heart attack and died on the second hole. It took us so long because we were dragging his dead weight after us. But, you know, if you think about it, that's what we can do in our life, right? We keep dragging the dead weight of the past instead of saying, I'm going to set this down. This is not my truth anymore. And maybe it's been true until now, but tomorrow and today are different. And St. Francis of Assisi also was asked, why do you think that you were chosen? Why do you think that you were called? And he said, I was called because I was so flawed. I made every single mistake that a human being could make. And if Spirit could work through me, Spirit could work through anybody. That's why I was the one who was called. So whatever the story you have about yourself is, just set it down. Mary Morrissey says, grace is a gift of the universe. You cannot earn it. You are born deserving it. Want to know whether you're worthy? If you're still breathing, the answer is that you are. The gift of life is yours to live abundantly. I love that. It's so positive. So you do have a handout, and if you're online, so we're going to do a little interactive stuff today. And I just invite you to take out your handout and your pen. If you're online, Patrick's dropping this in the chat. And when Mary Morrissey thinks about life, she talks about 4 areas of life, and we could argue there's more than this, but the first one is health and well-being. And so for each of these categories, I just invite you to mark down where are you on a scale of 1 to 5 in the area. And the second one is love and relationships. Third one is vocation, and the fourth one is time and money freedom. So just mark where you're at. Mark where you think you're at right now. And Paige, you can come up and play. You guys can come up and play, sit down, because you need a partner for the next step. Just mark where you're at. And just think about, how long have you been feeling that way? You know, how long have you been feeling however you are? If you're a 4 or a 5, what would make you a 5? If you're a 1 or a 2, what would make you move up just a little bit? But I just want to invite you now to share with a partner. You're going to have about a minute each. And if you're on line, I just invite you to type in the chat, what were your ratings, and anything you want to share. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do this, because this is really just checking in with yourself. Where are you? What would you like to be different in your life? Okay? You guys got it? Everybody got a partner or a triad? If you aren't a partner, form a partnership or a triad, and you have 2 minutes. Make sure everybody has a chance to share. Should be rotating. Okay, about 1 more minute. Okay, let's come back together as a group, but I know no amount of time I give you is sufficient. Hopefully we're just planting a little seed for you about what you would love to have in your life. So I want to share a few more concepts, then we're going to do one more exercise together. So what would you love to have in your life? What would you love to have? Our human self looks to conditions, but your spiritual self is ever moving upward, ever moving forward, pressing you to become more of what you are capable of being, right? Your spirit's always speaking to you about what it wants to express through you. And as your awareness begins to evolve, your circumstances change. So do you believe in your problems or do you believe in your dreams? I love that question. So easy to believe in our problems, isn't it? Just talking to myself right now. You know, Mary Morrissey tells a story about her church that she founded in Portland. And she had been running the church for about 5 years, and there were only 40 or 50 people who were part of her community, which is very similar to us, right? We might have more sometimes and less sometimes. But her mentor was this guy named Jack Boland. And Jack Boland was a famous unity minister. And he mentored 3 people. Mary Morrissey was one, Wayne Dyer was another, and Les Brown was the third one. And so he came to see Mary out in Portland shortly before he died. He had cancer and he passed. And she said, you know, I'm stuck. I just don't believe something's different is possible. And he said, have you not listened to anything that I taught you about possibility? And she said, yeah, I'm just struggling to believe. And he said, could you believe that I believe that more is possible for you? And which it goes back to her original story. If anyone knows her story, she almost died after giving birth to her son, maybe in the first year of his life, from a kidney. And the doctor had said, you're not going to make it. And a Christian Science practitioner came to her room and prayed with her and basically said the same thing to her. You know, can you believe that I can believe that you're better? Which is what happens when someone prays for you. They believe it for you till you can believe it for yourself. And so I want to really invite you, and one of the things Jack Boland said to her is, stop asking how. How am I going to do what I want to do? Stop asking how, because the infinite always has resources beyond what you know, right? Somebody can be put in your path that brings you the information that you need. There can be some great synchronicity that happens that like moves your life in a different direction. You never know what's possible, right? So don't limit it by trying to figure it out. Just trust and put it out there. So we're going to play a little bit more. Your homework is to sit down and write a vision as if it already happened. But just to get the juices flowing. And if you're online, Patrick is going to drop a Zoom link in there so you can play with a friend on Zoom if you want to talk to another person, if you don't have one sitting next to you. And we're going to do something called Future Pull. Now, some of you have done Future Pull before, but if you haven't, this is how it works. So can I have a brave volunteer? Okay, Tiffany, come on up. Don't be afraid. Okay, so we're just going to demonstrate Future Pull. And then you have homework to do, which is to go write a vision for yourself and to imagine it, okay? Okay, so Tiffany, what are you calling forth more of in your life?
Prosperity in the form of money, and also a thriving coaching business.
Okay, so if I'm Tiffany's partner, or if you're a triad, this is what you're going to do for your partner. You're going to say, so I'm going to speak as if it happened. Because what we want to do when we vision is we don't want it to be like a future thing. We want it to act as if it's already happened. So Tiffany, like, let's pretend it's 3 years from now. Okay. Tiffany, I am like just so excited for you to see this thriving coaching business you created. It's amazing. You're making so much money and you're having so much fun and people are being inspired by you. It's so cool. It's like the natural extension of all the other work you've done. Okay, so that's what you're going to do with your partner or your triad. Okay, we're going to give you about 9 minutes just in case you're a triad. And your job is you're just going to state what to your partner or your triad, what do you want to call forth more of? And I'm going to tell you when to switch so that everyone gets a chance to do it, so that you can get in the energy of it. Because, you know, Neville Goddard wrote over 100 years ago that feeling is the secret to everything. So we need to get in the feeling that it's already done. Whoo! Okay, you ready? Are you ready online, Miss Linda? Okay, Patrick, if you can drop the link. I guess I didn't say that yet. Go be Don's partner. Okay, don't be shy. Future pull away. Okay, if there's 3 of you, you should be shifting. Okay, if there's 3 of you, you should be shifting again. And just if there's 2 of you, you probably should have shifted to the second person. respond. Got about 1 more minute. Hey, Linda, can you have them pop back into the live stream? Okay, awesome. Okay, sadly, I need to call us back together as a group, unless everyone just wants to spend the day here hanging out with friends. Okay, so what was it like to hear someone else speak about what you want to call forth in your life? What was it like? Okay, Paige, come up here. Paige, come on up here. We're going to hear from Paige. We're practicing it, and then you can just stay because we're heading towards singing.
Okay, what am I saying?
You're sharing what it was like to hear someone else talk about what you dream about.
It was really exciting. And Nora said things that I didn't even think about. And I was like, whoa, that'd be really cool. Like, really cool.
Awesome. Okay, stay. Stay. Okay, anybody else want to share? Okay, but doesn't it generates energy to think about a life you would love, doesn't it? And that's really what we want to remember and focus on. We want to pay attention to what gives us energy. We want to pay attention to a life that we would love. That's what brings you joy. Just give yourself the freedom and the permission to move toward that. And we're going to take this into prayer now. Our songstresses, as Don would call them, and songster. What's the gender neutral? Our singers. Okay. So I just invite everyone to turn within to this infinite field of possibility. This one life that everywhere and always is unfolding in as in through us. It is unfolding in as in through me. It is unfolding in as in through each and every one of us. This infinite possibility, this creative power and presence, this life itself, this generative energy, this divine power. And so from our place of oneness with it, I speak this word for each and every person hearing my words. I know that if Spirit put a dream in your heart, that it is the pleasure of the divine to fulfill it on your behalf. So I say yes to that for each and every one of us, just knowing that we are each moving toward what gives us life, that we are each moving more and more every day into the joy, the grace, the flow, the fun, the ease, the prosperity, the creativity of Spirit. And I know Spirit says yes to this for all of us.
I say yes,
I say yes.
I say,
Let's everybody say yes. I say yes. I say yes.
I say yes,
I say yes.
I say yes.
Woo! And how grateful I am to know that this word is fulfilled as soon as it is spoken. I am so grateful to know that the Spirit that planted the dream is the Spirit that fulfills it. And I'm so grateful to know that this is done now. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is.